Welcome to MarTech in Focus, to our 14th episode on the power of loyalty in e-commerce. I'm very happy to be here live again on the various social channels. Also, really happy to have two great guests with us for this 14th episode. We have two experts actually on loyalty with Ian and Pierre, both of Sales Manago. Ian, the CMO, and Pierre, the VP of product. And let's hand it over maybe first to Pierre, just to do a very quick intro on yourself.
Hello, Esna. Thank you for having us. Very happy to be here. So as you mentioned, VP of product of Sales Manago, been in the e-commerce industry for quite some time now across search, product discovery, and especially now everything around engagement, including loyalty. So very excited to be there.
Yeah, hi, Pierre.
Hi everyone, I'm Ian. I'm the CMO of Sales Manago. Super excited to be here. Obviously, loyalty is such a critical topic at the moment. My background is kind of 20 plus years in kind of tech, SaaS, and kind of startup marketing, and most recently for the last kind of 4 or 5 years in e-commerce. Really focused on kind of bringing the value of SaaS and technology into the hands of marketers.
Cool. And for those who are the first time with us, since we have many new registrants, but also some old hearers and listeners, my name is Urs Blickensdorfer. I'm the CEO and founder of I&F Marketing Technology. We help clients adopt and implement various different kinds of marketing technology. So today is all about loyalty. And when we speak about loyalty, I think we first need to think about which kind of loyalty do you actually look for, and because especially in e-commerce, we have seen in the past few years quite a focus on kind of transactional based loyalty. And if you look at this graph here, you see kind of the two axes on relational loyalty and transactional loyalty and passive and active, and kind of the traditional form was really about the mercenary loyalty. So I'm loyal because you pay me for my loyalty, giving all kind of benefits or discounts and stuff like that. So this is one we see quite often with all kinds of retailers across the globe. Or we also got lock-in effect with the inertial loyalty, where it's, I'm only here because, it's the effort to change is simply too high. But when it's really becoming interesting is when you start building on this relation with your customers, when you go to the true loyalty, where really my connection to the brand goes way beyond, just the offer, or even the cult loyalty, where, we create a sense of belonging. So the brand really starts reflecting my personal identity. We all know probably kind of one of the brands that is nearest to that is probably the whole Apple, where it's just being an Apple guy or not, a bit of independence of the quality of the product. But Pierre, I don't know, how have you seen, where do you see some trends, people or companies or brands trying to break this barrier, only focusing on the lower right corner?
No, exactly. I think like a big mistake that many companies will tend to do is just to focus, like just assimilate like loyalty as you mentioned there, as like mercenary loyalty. So just like points, giving away vouchers, and obviously specific elements, and it's limited to that. But effectively, and it's nicely shown there, is like beyond that, you get a much stronger also aspect when it comes towards this experience, like what you call like true loyalty. So like the easiest process towards like buying a product, browsing a website, going through like shipping, this whole process, this is actually where you can start creating this very interesting moments as part of it that are actually going to make a connection without actually requiring any specific points like discounts, elements like this. But for me, the part I found very interesting is if we start like taking this to very strong consideration and start applying some of our marketing tactics and strategies just to get to that stage of like cold loyalty. So not just like focusing on building this best product for like everybody without necessarily like focusing on one specific individual, but down the line, start creating this one-to-one relationship enhanced by this experience and getting to a level where the currency is no longer just points or vouchers, but actually giving back on the information that this customer are going to give you. So like what we are doing a lot on Sales Manager, we really believing in is this concept of like zero-party data, where we basically sort of like create this like unwritten like contract around the idea that if you're actually giving me the information so that I can give you a much personalized, individualized experience product selection, I give you that back to you. So it's not just like data just that you throw for me for free. It's effectively to design that better experience. And this is what we've been saying, like getting to that level of like really building these very strong connections with the shopper at the end of the day.
I think you mentioned a very interesting part here, Pierre. It's kind of the currency where you measure loyalty, because obviously, or you reward loyalty, because obviously on the transactional, on the mercenary logic, we all have these points or miles, discounts. But what's kind of the currency in the relationship on the emotional part? I think you mentioned one thing is kind of the experience, but how do you work with that? Maybe Ian, you have some thought about how do you actually make that measurable, or how do you make that workable as a brand?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it comes down to, as Pierre mentioned, customer expectations. I think if you look kind of 5-10 years ago, the relationship that a buyer had with a seller was very transactional, and it was very driven by price, and it was very driven by convenience. You went to the closest shop to you, or the website you remembered, and you would buy based on price. But as I say, I think customer expectations have evolved so much where I think if you'd asked people 10-15 years ago, are you willing to tell a business all of your preferences, all of the information in terms of your size, your preferred colors, your birthday, and all of those things? I think 10 years ago, people would just be like, no, I don't want anybody to know that kind of level of data about me. I think what we've got now is that the customer experience has evolved from that trend into the more emotional. And I think that we've got to the stage now where customers are more, not only are they more willing to provide that zero-party data that can power that kind of customer intimacy or customer relationship, they're actively asking for it, and they're actively kind of leaving shops and leaving e-commerce businesses that just don't provide that. If there's that soulless experience, if there's no form of community, if there's no sense of engagement and sense of the fact that I am a person and I want to be treated as an individual, I think, as I say, with that expectation comes a shift, especially in e-commerce, where if you're not providing that level of personalization, that transactional into that emotional connection that you have to really kind of get that core loyalty. In terms of how do you measure it, that's a big challenge. It's obviously there's the metrics and there's the numbers behind repeat purchases and things like that, but it goes further from a marketeer's sense, just in terms of that brand connection. Are people willing to engage in kind of community activities that you have? And I think that's where I think e-commerce businesses need to start moving to measure themselves against.
Yeah, I think you made a great point here. A lot of about the preferences and trying to understand your customer better, and that actually many consumers are willing to share their data. But I think with the data comes also responsibility, because you actually need to live up to it. Because if you start collecting, color preferences, size preferences, style preferences, you obviously also need to deliver on the personalization and on the experience. And I think this is sometimes I see my clients refrain a bit from that, because if we ask them too many questions, we actually need to personalize also to the expectation. Because if you collect the data, as I said, with the data comes also the responsibility to deliver on it. And I think that's sometimes still a bit of a challenge, or people are afraid of it, brands, I mean.
Yeah, I think it's a challenge, both in terms of do you have the capabilities to execute on that? Because as I say, I remember, maybe 5-10 years ago, that there was this constant conversation around segmentation versus personalization. And everyone was getting confused around segmenting your audience, male, female, or whatever it may be, into actual personal one-to-one understanding of your customers. But as I say, some people are kind of are quite hesitant because they don't have then that connection between their customer data platform or their kind of centralized single customer view with their execution channels, which allows them to do that precision execution really around delivering it. As I say, if I said I liked blue and I'm a size large and I only buy things on a Wednesday, why are you sending me a red pair of trousers on a Thursday? You have to then, as I say, collect that data, and you have to be able to react to it as well.
Yeah, and I guess also just to add on this, and so like bouncing back to the point of like collecting data, I think, yes, I think in the past there used to be this idea around, okay, when internet, we can collect as much data as we can. And you have all these like big databases that will be acquired, will be like doing all this tracking and lots of elements like that. What is very interesting is getting to a point where actually, if a brand comes with a very strong strategy towards like this engagement, this loyalty, this experience we want to build, and is actually very selective on the type of data they're asking for their customers, first, we're not going to get the same level of hesitance that you're going to get from the customers. Actually, pretty much the opposite, like Ian mentioned. Like I think it was McKinsey that was saying that about 76% of customers are actually frustrated when they don't see that personalization anymore. So it's no longer just like an add-on, it's an expectation that if it's not there, it's actually like playing your website, the bad angle on aspect of that. So I think, yes, there's a lot of like opportunity there. I'll definitely understand that it can come across as a bit like scary for a brand that would just want to kickstart that journey. But I think it comes down to the idea around, okay, what are the first quick wins that I can do to leverage that data that can get me to that place where I can start building what we call the customer intimacy with the customer. And you don't need to get a gigantic like database and everything like personalized like straight away from like one-to-one. The idea is around what is your strategy around it, and how step by step can you start creating these like marketing moments, customer moments that are going to build that relationship as we're going through it.
Yeah, and this is really where where we come to we want to quickly show the audience what Sales Manago also kind of worked on in that area, because I found that very interesting. So you launched this Cupid score just a short while ago, kind of an industry standard to measure customer engagement and experience, which should help marketers to understand how effective their company actually is in building bonds with with the customer. So Ian, maybe you can give us a bit of a in a nutshell, what is this Cupid score all about, and and why is this quite an interesting approach towards understanding loyalty as well?
Yeah, fantastic. So I think it goes back to what we were saying, is that we're in this shift where consumers are expecting this level of personalization and this level of kind of what we call customer intimacy. And obviously the Sales Manago platform's all about centralizing that zero-party data and that customer intelligence, and powering that with the precision execution across our omni-channel channels. But what we found is that unless people realize the challenges they have with actually creating customer intimacy, it's very difficult for them to kind of understand how to put that together in terms of, as Pierre mentioned, we need to capture that data and we need to take those steps towards delivering a personalized experience. So what we did was we created essentially a self-assessment. I truly believe that you need to self-actualize your own problem before you seek a solution. So what we wanted to do is to give, similar to kind of NPS that people use in terms of how engaged their customers are with products in technology, we wanted to try and create something that allowed e-commerce businesses to really make that self-assessment in terms of their own capabilities. So yeah, we came up with Cupid, which essentially stands for convenience, understanding, personalization, intimacy, and data, which are the kind of 5 key elements of creating kind of that customer engagement and intimacy. And we essentially created an assessment, which is around kind of helping people to answer questions, to assess their own capabilities, whether they have the ability to capture data of their customers, whether they can have a single 360 view over their customers and understand them in that level of details. And what we wanted to do is we wanted to try and understand as an industry how far away we are from having the ability to deliver that personalized experience to our customers. And I think as an industry, and as marketeers, it's on ourselves to do that that assessment to really understand our own capabilities before we then try and do to move forward. So yeah, this is really a kind of an entry for e-commerce marketers, for e-commerce businesses, to really just take a simple assessment that will then kind of give them a score out of 100, and it really benchmarks them against other e-commerce businesses in terms of across those 5 different areas where they potentially look to improve. So yeah, it's just it's a tool that hopefully will help people realize that as an industry, we still have a long way to go between really developing that true kind of customer engagement, customer intimacy we want to do. But the first start to solving any problem is realizing you have a problem, and secondly, pinpointing where potentially your problem may sit across these 5 different areas. So yeah.
So we will definitely put the link also under the comments on LinkedIn, so you can all go and see your score. So did you already get some reactions from your client side on how it helped them to kind of better understand their customer intimacy?
Yeah, we've had some fantastic feedback, and we've had kind of over 100,000 people kind of come to the assessment a few weeks of launching it. We actually kind of called it Cupid because we launched it in beta in February around Valentine's Day, and we've had some fantastic feedback just in terms of, as I say, going through those questions. And some of our customers and some we've heard from other businesses within the industry, it's simple step by step. Do I do this? Oh, no, I didn't realize I needed to. Or do I have the capability to do this? Oh, well, I don't have the capability to do this. And therefore, it really kind of opens up and kind of gives a clear understanding of where you're potentially strong. So you could be really great at kind of understanding your customers, but in terms of your ability to then personalize the execution, as we talked about, you maybe don't have the capabilities to do that. So it just really helps businesses shine that light over areas that they need to address in that true kind of building the central data profile of your customers, and then how does that roll out through your execution and building that customer intimacy. So we've had some fantastic feedback, and we're looking forward to more and more people taking the assessment, and we'll be hopefully delivering some kind of benchmarks in the coming weeks and months, just in terms of different industries, different verticals, and where we're seeing the kind of major gaps as an industry that we have.
Excellent. So yeah, let's when we prepared the session, I wanted to share some loyalty trends, and those kind of are just, obviously it's not only but it's kind of a free kind of trends I see in loyalty nowadays, which I found very, very interesting, and I just want to put up here for discussion and also for our audience. So obviously, the first one is really about strategic partnerships. Company, it's really where a brand or your brand would work together with another company to create a mutual beneficiary loyalty scheme. So not only work with your own benefits and your own products, but really try to see can you create a partnership with another company, or join your loyalty programs to create a more unique experience, and which is quite interesting, because obviously you can also work on the cost side by maybe reduce some of the reward costs, but obviously also boost brand awareness and offering totally new kinds of ways to reward your loyal customers, but also to create just more unique experience. I think the biggest challenge here is finding the right partner. I don't know, maybe Pierre or Ian, how have you seen working that with some of your customer in building joint partnerships?
I think that's very interesting question. I think, as you say, I think for me, the way I'm seeing strategic partnership is that it could be definitely a very powerful tool. It all comes down to finding the relevant partner and just making sure that fits with your brand as well. The last thing you want is actually just to basically start working with another company, but your customer don't necessarily understand the length or the values that tie to your brand. So I think you can find quite a lot of great examples. But I think for me, the most important thing is making sure that you find something that's relevant, still tied to your experience and what you want to deliver from a value perspective, and actually just enhance it through that other party. Definitely.
Yeah, I think it, as you say, Pierre, I think it comes down to, if you really do understand your customers, you'll understand what else they love, and you'll provide that additional value, and that will then create that kind of brand ethos behind the fact that, I may not be buying trainers every day of the week or every day of the month, but if there's a trainer connection with a loungewear company or even kind of a sporting goods company, you kind of see that connection. You're like, well, I might not be, as I say, the repeat purchase of trainers could be once every 6 months or whatever it may be. But by forming that strategic alliance and that partnership, you kind of create that enhanced loyalty where it's just like, well, I'm going to wear those clothes with those trainers, and then next time I'm going to then kind of build it out to that sports equipment. And I think that it's a really nice synergy that brands can create. And I know you're going to talk about the Virgin Red, but just quickly, obviously the premium of all the kind of the biggest of all loyalty schemes, obviously Air Miles and things like that. I think they swiftly realised that you collect all these Air Miles and you may not fly for 3 years, or it takes you 5 years to earn enough Air Miles to actually go and do that. And some people were just like, well, I'm not going to sit around for 5 years collecting Air Miles. And now you can actually then spend them across wine or across hotels. And they've created that kind of travel experience kind of allegiance where it's like, I'm going to fly British Airways or whoever it may be, because they have this connection to Hilton hotels, and then I can form this nice connection between my points and everything like that. So there's definitely things to be learned from kind of the travel and hospitality industry that I think do these strategic partnerships really well.
Cool. Yeah, this was just one example. You know, we came up with is the Virgin Red, which obviously is a very, very broad. Obviously, Virgin is well suited to host to kind of create such a ecosystem of rewards because they got so many brands themselves, but they also, you know, geared up with Apple, Lego, and many others just to create, you know, I think they had over 200 brands kind of, you know, build into their reward scheme. So you cannot only use your miles for flying, but really actually for almost everything. And I think this, you know, this kind of my key insight out of that was really that when you are a product that you maybe have a frequency of only once or twice, like an airline a year, you want to partner up with a brand that with products that rotate at a different speed or intensity, just to be, you know, to create a more frequent brand awareness for your brand and at a different level. Because I think this is really kind of one of the key insights. The next one I want to talk about is ESG, and obviously ESG has been around for a while, but lately, you know, I think it really has started to that we have seen some really great example of how ESG, ecological, social, governmental, you know, programs or schemes can be included in loyalty schemes, you know, by encouraging more responsible behaviors, by, you know, helping clients, you know, to purchase more ethical, maybe more expensive products, or by supporting charity, supporting healthier lifestyle, and so forth. So I think this is really an interesting course, and I think something where retailers still probably, and I think you mentioned it in the beginning, Pierre, you know, it almost becomes a must. I don't know how you see that.
No, I mean, I think like, I mean, ultimately that's not, I think not just like a small trend. That's something that's going to be more and more linked to the USP or lots of brands, or like the way they approach it, even the experience, as you said. I mean, we start seeing a lot of like brands or like shopping like flows where at the end you know exactly like the amount of CO2 that was emissions that was linked to that product and what they're doing to tackle it, for example. And what is I found very interesting is that something that nowadays is not just living with purely like B2C, so like brands, like you're starting a lot of like B2B companies actively working very hard on it. On our part, like another thing that supports us towards like this adoption towards like zero-party data is that's the only data that we call green data on our end, simply from the fact that because we're actually much more targeted and much more focused, as part of this. You're simply going to use much less server times and like quantity of these different elements compared to like trying to gather as much data as like unusable as possible. So now ultimately like very strong trends, very good to see, obviously like becoming a basic for B2C, but also really growing on B2B front as well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think just touching on what Pierre said, obviously another kind of tenant of our marketing. So we believe that marketing should be lean, it should be efficient and effective, and I think that our platform helps drive that. And then part of lean marketing is if you do have this level of zero-party data of your customers, if you can build this loyalty, you're not then spending a lot of money wasting trying to attract new, but you can also then kind of engage people in a more relevant and a more direct and highly converting approach, and therefore it becomes a lot more lean and efficient of your activities once you have that kind of level of customer data. But I think it comes back to, again, if you understand your customers and you understand the kind of societal change that's happening around the world, this is critical for all businesses to ensure that they're not only partaking in these key elements, but they're actually making sure that their customers are aware. Because again, a lot of charity work or anything was always behind the scenes, and I think it's now having a sustainable business, have a more ethical business. It's part of your brand's USP now, and I think that's clear in a lot of the loyalty things that I know a lot of audiences won't shop with certain brands because they don't feel like there's ethical practices. There was a lot of fast fashion brands, for example, that had kind of the throwaway nature of their product and the cheap labor of their product, and I think in today's society that's just not accepted and not acceptable to have that kind of less ethical approach to business.
Absolutely. I think one interesting example, or just quite a comprehensive example, maybe it's not the biggest one, I just want to highlight was Vans shoes. They have an initiative which is called Wear On. It's actually, where you can bring in your old shoes, or which are not wearable, at least to your impression anymore. And obviously also other retailers like H&M do have some recycling program. What I find interesting with Wear On is it's not only about the recycling. It's really they create a kind of a small ecosystem around that. So they also create jobs for people in repurposing those shoes and the material. So it's really focused on people, people in need, but they also do a lot of cool stuff with it. They do park benches, phone cases, skateboard decks, all kind of things with their material when lifetime ends. So I think it's a really cool program. And obviously it's you get the benefits and you get rewards when you bring your shoes back. So it's kind of not when you buy it, it's actually when you get it back. So I think it's a great initiative to highlight.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, I think on that it goes back to what we were saying at the start, just around truly building that emotional connection. Loyalty is going to be driven through emotion rather than transactional moving forward. And I think that, as you say, if you can build that community of like-minded people that actually everyone just wants to be loyal to brands that are good and nice in the world, and I think if as a brand, if you're not seen to be proactively addressing some of the challenges of wastage and recycling and anything there, that just it doesn't create that kind of environment that I think consumers want to be part of. So,
all right. So the last one actually shows. So the key insight here, or to summarize, it's really to create tailored choices for your audience, and obviously also offer sometimes some earth-friendly perks. And I think especially in e-commerce, I think it's also about not sending around small goodies around the world, and also thinking about how do you actually deliver your rewards and make sure that also delivery the logistics are earth friendly as well. I think that's a very important key thing. The last one I want to tackle on, and it's just we are at the hour, just very quickly, is gamification, because I think gamification is a really, really interesting one, and I think technology has been developing a lot of interesting combinations, and also combined with the first one, the partnerships, I think we've seen some great pieces of gamification where loyalty programs in essence actually just become real fun. It's also about connecting with your, the personal wish to achieve something. And what I really like, just as an example to start the discussion, is the one of Bergzeit. Bergzeit is a German multi-channel mountaineering retailer. And what they did is they connected with Strava, an app for, many of you would know that, for biking and hiking and biking. And they said, okay, when you achieve certain goals in terms of altitude meters per week or per month, you get certain badges, and the Strava guys in this session, they would know that. But the interesting piece is you can then trade these badges, for specific, rewards on Bergzeit. So here, really connecting your consumers' personal wishes and desire to achieve something with their product, I think is a great match.
No, totally. I mean, who doesn't like that little dose of dopamine when we get that badge or get to that level of bronze, silver, gold? I think that's that's something that's just, part of like the way that our body and our minds react. So I think it's exactly that. The more that we can start trying to bring this on, but also bring a bit more fun as part of like the brands and how we browse, and like Ian mentioned, bring some like actual emotions beyond just transactional aspect of it. That's the best. So that's how you start rebuilding strong connections. No, definitely.
Cool. So, and to summarize that one, I really think this is a key insight for retailers is, make your brand, part of a personal achievement, because I think this, as Pierre just mentioned it, perfectly, if you're proud of what you have achieved, and you have achieved it, kind of together with the brand or with the brand's product, or, with even if it's just with a game or an environment or an experience the product or the brand provides, it just, it just creates something which goes much deeper than just, rewards or discounts. And I think this is for me, it was a big learning also in the past. We need to move away from just giving discounts, but really providing unique experiences, because it's just, as we had seen the brain, I think it will last in your consumers' brains so much longer. So those were kind of the key insights. So I know we're 3 minutes over the time. So unless there are any questions from the audience, so you can post questions here. I know we had a bit of a struggle in the beginning in linking it correctly, I saw, but we have people actually joining here. But so when you ever have any last questions, otherwise, I want to say thank you for those who have been part of the show, and hopefully see you soon, very soon again, when it's time for MarTech in Focus. For me, it's up to say thank you to Pierre and Ian for joining me here at this session. As I said, we'll share all the details, all the links, and thank you for being part of the show, Pierre, Ian.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Bye. Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.